You got your story of the world in the mail, but now what? Today we're jumping into what you need to know when it comes to organizing, laying out, and planning your story of the world curriculum so that you can have the best success with it. So let's get started. Hi, my name is Katie and welcome to Life in the Mundane. I am a second generation homeschool mom of 6 beautiful kiddos, and on this channel we talk all things resources. I love to share with you resources that are going to help you in your homeschooling and help encourage you in your biblical parenting, and how you can utilize those to their fullest potential so that you can make the most of the little moments. One of the things that I love about Story of the World is how easy it is to use. And yet, as simple as it is, for a lot of people, it causes confusion or questions. How do you space it out throughout the year? How do you pick the activities, or how do you organize the materials? Well, those are all things we're going to talk about today. And the awesome thing is I'm partnering up with my friend Megan from Pennies and Salt, and we are both sharing how we organize and utilize this program. I'm hoping this will be a great resource for you, because the beauty of homeschooling is you make it your own. You do what works for you and your family. And with both of us sharing how we organize and set up our Story of the World curriculums for the year, hopefully you can find a few tips and tricks, pick and choose what works for you, and implement it for your family. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know what Story of the World is, be sure to go over and check out Yasmin at Mommy on the Move. She's got a great video, quick guide for Story of the World, explaining to you what it is, what it looks like, pros and cons. So be sure to check that out. I'll drop a link down below. Back to the video. So let's start with how to organize your materials. So there are a lot of different materials that are available. There are test booklets and quiz booklets. I personally don't use those. The 3 materials that I use, and I'm going to show you how I kind of organize and utilize them, is the activity book for the Story of the World. This is called the student activity book, but it actually has a section that's specifically for the teachers, and then it has activity pages for the student that are reproducible, so you can use them and utilize them for your family as many times as you need to. The second part is the actual textbook itself. You kind of have to have this part. This is really the key element of the program. It's pretty much just open and go. Third and final piece to the curriculum that we use is the audio CDs. They're color-coded, which makes it awesome and easy, but there is a special way that we utilize it for review and for refreshing, and we'll get to all of that in just a second as I share with you guys how we organize it. Let's start with the student activity book. This is probably the most complicated part. And I will tell you guys, you can get the student activity book and use it 100% as is. You don't have to do anything with it. You could just open it up and use it. However, we have been using this program now for 3 years, and I have found it increasingly frustrating to use this book as is. So I've been making a few changes slowly over time as we go through the program. Now you'll see that these books are quite thick, and part of that is because they are 2 books in one. Like I said, there are teacher pages at the beginning that have activity ideas, they have reading suggestions, they have questions, and I really love their questions as they probe for deeper narration and working on being able to retell what they learned. So I love those questions. So I like to have that with me when I'm reading the textbook with my kids. But the activity pages are actually about 3/4 of the book. And these are all those reproducible pages that you can use for your children. We do like to utilize those. They have a variation of coloring pages, map skills, and many other activities. So they are really a great resource, but I don't need those with me when I'm on my day-to-day reading for history. So what I chose to do is I chose to go over to Office Depot. I love me some Office Depot, and no, this is not a sponsored video by them. And I love to go over there and get my books bound that are a little bit thicker. I do have my own binding machine, but when it comes to a job like this, I wanted to get it professionally done. So I just took it into Office Depot and I told them I wanted to split this one book into 2 and have it spiral bound. And they were super accommodating. Part of the reason why I love going to Office Depot is because they offer a discount if you are an HSLDA member. You can actually get a little Office Depot discount card through the HSLDA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, if you're not familiar with that. And you can actually get a discount on all of your printing and your binding and all those kinds of things, which is why I tend to frequent there. If you guys want to know about all the benefits, what HSLDA is, it's something I recommend most, if not all, homeschoolers have. And If you want to know more about the benefits that you can get, like discounts at different places, be sure to check out this video up here in the iCards and down in the description below. But essentially, I went there, I asked them to bind it into 2 separate books, and they were so accommodating. I super appreciated their willingness to work with me, as it was kind of an odd request. And now I have 2 separate books that I can easily use. I have one that I get to use with my textbook that I can use to help guide the lessons and help me tell exactly what I should be asking and what activities I should be doing. And then I have the other one that I can store on my school shelf that I don't have to have kind of clunking around every single day, and instead can just utilize that when it's time to photocopy. And I love the fact that now that it's bound, I can fold it flat to photocopy versus kind of dealing with this just ginormous book. Speaking of photocopies, what does that look like? What do the actual student pages look like? Well, there are a huge variation, but I like to prep them about 6 to 8 weeks in advance. And there's 2 reasons for this. One is that I don't like doing it on a weekly basis, because then I found myself putting off history because I wasn't prepared, or maybe missing out on some of the neat pages and the neat activities because I hadn't had a chance to look at it that week. But you can definitely do it on a week-by-week basis if you prefer. But the second reason is because I wanted the ability to gauge how much we were using the material. So for us, I set out as photocopying all the coloring pages and all the mapping pages, because I really wanted to work on that geography aspect this year, and set out to do that. I printed up enough for all of my kiddos and had it done for the first 8 weeks of school. As we went through the process, I found that most of my kids loved the coloring pages. It engaged their minds and their hands, kept their mouths quiet, and had them listening for those particular things that were on their coloring sheet, and was really, really a worthwhile thing. However, I did have a few kiddos who really weren't into the coloring. They had no desire to do it, and they asked if they could just skip it from then on. Well, if I had spent all that time and photocopied all of the pages for the entire year for them, we would have a lot of wasted coloring pages. And instead, this way I was able to say, not a problem. For the next 8 weeks, I just skipped the coloring pages for those kiddos. So I really like the fact that it gives you that flexibility, but also helps you to prep a little bit in advance. The way I organize these, once I have them printed, is I actually bound them myself. I do have a binding machine, and like I said, I do this for a lot of my smaller projects. It's just some things like that I prefer to have done professionally. And I will link down in the description what my binding machine is. But there are a lot of good ones out there. You don't have to have that one. I actually got mine off Facebook Marketplace. So lots of different ways you can do it. I just printed off on Canva, which is a totally free program. I printed off a cover, and then I bound the kids' work pages for the first 8 weeks. They have a map page and a coloring page for each and every chapter. And I just love having this all easy. I can add to it as I go. So I continually do the next 8 weeks, and I just add to it. And by the end of the year, we'll have a nice portfolio of all the things they've learned. And they love going back through the coloring pages in particular and using those as visual prompts to remind them of what we've gone through. Now, when it comes to the CDs, these are pretty straightforward, right? It's the audio version of the textbook. Your kids can listen to these whenever they want. But for us in particular, when I get these in the mail, I put them on my computer immediately. I rip them off onto my computer, and I will then download them onto my kids' MP3 players. I've talked about these MP3 players before. They are so easy, so affordable. We love them. They're an amazing homeschool tool, and we have one for each of my school-age kiddos. And so we put the entire series or entire volume of Story of the World that they are currently studying on their MP3 player, so they can listen to it whenever they want. And they actually do enjoy going and listening to it on their own. You can have your child also, if you read the chapter one day, you could have them re-listen to it the next day so that they can review as they are going through whatever activity pages you assigned them. Lots of flexibility there. But once I've ripped it off onto the computer so I can put it onto the MP3 players, I throw the CD set in the van, because these make a great thing to listen to in the car, especially on long car trips. And what I like about listening to it on long car trips, or more in kind of a big chunk, is that when we divide the chapters as we go into smaller sections so that we have the opportunity to do all of the additional reading and the activities, sometimes we can lose a little bit of the continuity in the storyline, right? And so this allows us to kind of get that big picture and listen from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 16. And my kids are very engaged and into it and listening to it. And they always pick up something new because they're listening to it over and over and over again. Now, when it comes to the textbook itself, it doesn't really need a lot of organization. It's pretty open and go. The question comes in is, how do you plan this out? How do you actually divide this out throughout the year? Because most of the volumes have about 42 chapters in each book, but most school years don't have 42 weeks. So if you want to do 1 chapter a week, it's a little too much for typical school year unless you're doing year round like we do. You want to double up and do 2 chapters a week, it's not enough to make it throughout the year. Personally, I don't sweat these things. I just kind of take it a little bit as I go. But initially, when I got the curriculum, that was the first thing I did, was trying to divide and figure out how many chapters were we going to go through in a week. Or you might be asking, Katie, if I have to prep 8 weeks worth of student material by photocopying it, how am I going to know how much material we're going to cover in 8 weeks? So there's a little bit of guesswork involved, but after 3 years, I have learned our sweet spot is about 3 chapters every 2 weeks. Okay, so a little more than 1 chapter, not quite 2 chapters. And really the way we decide which ones are what is we go by the kids' interest level. We read, if they're super engaged, then we'll just kind of camp out there for a little while. We'll watch YouTube videos and listen to songs and watch documentaries and read books and do the activities and all those kind of fun things. And we'll camp out there as long as they're interested in it. And then we'll keep moving on. So that is maybe hopefully a helpful little guide for you guys. If you have younger listeners, younger readers with you, they do even have each chapter broken up into smaller sections. And I do like the fact that you can maybe take 1 chapter for the whole week and just read it in small sections each day. So totally up to you and how you want to plan it. But when it comes to that first section of student activity book and all those different additional read alouds and additional activities, how do you plan and organize that material? Well, here's simple, really easy how I do it. I open it up and I plan about 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. Every once in a blue moon, it'll be 4 weeks, when life happens and things get crazy. But I will try to kind of plan that same amount of time that I photocopy pages for. And I will go in and look over the next few chapters and we'll look at what my library has on hold. I don't typically buy these additional books because they are more supplemental. And so I will go in and look and see what my library has on hold. I'll put on anything on hold that looks of interest to me or I think would be of interest to my child. And that's great because our library can take a little while to get things from one branch to another. And so it allows for some transition time, or if someone else already has the book on hold, it allows for me to get it in a timely manner. And then we get to check out our books for 3 weeks at a time, but then we can renew it up to 3 times for additional 3 weeks each time. So I don't mind planning so far ahead because I know that I can continue to renew even if we get delayed a little bit from our schedule. So this has been hugely helpful for me to do this and to just put those things on hold, drive up, pick them up, and be kind of a one and done shop. It's been really, really nice. As far as the activities, I'll be honest, we don't use a lot of them. I'm not a super hands-on activity kind of mom. I can be at times, but not generally. And so I do usually pick a few for the year, but I don't necessarily even pick 1 per chapter. So it's just up to you and your personal preference. But definitely I look ahead and see if there is anything I'm wanting to do in that next 6 to 8 weeks that seems of interest to me. And then I try to just jot down on my shopping list any materials I might need to grab or gather or items I might need to prepare, I'll put into my planner. And that just makes it easier when I get there. I'm not surprised because I open it up and realize, oh, we needed this particular item to make this particular craft. So all of that to say, it's really easy to use. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I hope these things will help you to kind of have an idea of how to get a grasp on getting prepared and organized for your new school year. There's a little bit of controversy around Story of the World, if I'm being honest with you guys, in the Christian community. A lot of Christians question whether you should use it or not, if it is too secular, or sometimes people who prefer secular curriculum are asking, is it too Christian? And I actually did a video on this very, very topic. I would love for you guys to check it out. Let me know your opinions on the debate, and hopefully it will help you in making your decision going forward. Hopefully that video can help you answer those questions if you want to know more, and if you want to see how Megan organizes hers or how Yasmin summarizes beautifully the curriculum and what it's all about, be sure to check out those videos, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.